Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Lilly, your host, and I'm so incredibly excited that you've tuned in today. If this is your first time joining us, let me tell you, you are in for an absolute treat because today we're diving deep into some of the most practical, useful, and game-changing American English phrases that native speakers use every single day in their conversations. Before we get started with today's amazing lesson, I want to give a huge shout out to everyone who's already part of our podcast community. For those of you listening, if you haven't already, please make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Seriously, subscribing means you'll never miss out on our new episodes that drop regularly, filled with real-life English tips, practical lessons, and so much value for anyone wanting to improve their English speaking skills and confidence. Seriously, subscribing means you'll never miss out on our new episodes that drop regularly, filled with real-life English tips, practical lessons, and so much value for anyone wanting to improve their English speaking skills and confidence. Plus, make sure you check out our podcast playlist where we've compiled all of our best episodes, organized by topic and difficulty level, so you can binge listen and really transform your English speaking ability step by step. Now, let's talk about what we're covering today. Today's episode is all about those essential, real-life American phrases that you absolutely need to know to sound natural, fluent, and confident when you're having conversations with native speakers. Whether you're talking to friends, conducting business meetings, going through your daily routines, or just navigating social situations, these phrases are your secret weapons for sounding more like a native English speaker and less like someone who's studying from textbooks. By the end of this comprehensive podcast episode, you're going to be able to recognize, understand, and most importantly, actually use these phrases confidently in your own conversations. I'm going to give you tons of practical examples, real-life scenarios, and plenty of opportunities for you to practice these phrases out loud or in writing. So grab yourself a pen and paper, maybe a nice cup of coffee or tea, get comfortable, and let's dive right in. This is going to be transformative for your English speaking journey. Okay, so here's something really important that I want you to understand right from the beginning. Native English speakers, especially Americans, don't actually speak the way most textbooks teach us. They don't use long, complicated sentences with perfect grammar in casual conversation. Instead, they rely heavily on short, commonly used phrases and expressions that carry a ton of meaning in just a few words. These phrases are like the shortcuts of English conversation, and once you master them, your speaking immediately becomes so much more natural and fluent. Think about it this way. If I asked someone in American English how they're doing, I would never say, "How are you doing today and what is currently happening in your life?" That would be incredibly awkward. Instead, I'd say something simple like, "What's up?" or "How's it going?" These short phrases are what real people use, what you'll hear in movies, what your friends will say to you, and what you absolutely need to know to fit into authentic conversations with native speakers. Here's the truth that many English learners struggle with. You can study grammar rules and vocabulary lists for years, and you might do great on tests, but you could still miss out on these key phrases that make English sound alive, friendly, approachable, and natural. It's like learning all the rules of music, but never actually listening to songs. These phrases are the songs of English conversation. They're what makes communication feel real, genuine, and connected. So let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're walking into your favorite coffee shop in the middle of New York City. You approach the counter, and the barista looks up and cheerfully says, "Hey, how's it going?" Now, if all you've learned is textbook English, you might be confused by this casual greeting. You might overthink it, but this is actually one of the most common ways Americans greet each other, and it's something you'll hear dozens of times every single day if you're in America or around American English speakers. The literal meaning of "how's it going" is similar to "how are you," but the tone, the feeling, the context of it is completely different. It sounds relaxed, conversational, friendly, and approachable. You could respond with something like, "Not bad, thanks for asking." "How about you?" And just like that, you've participated in a natural American English exchange. You've done what native speakers do automatically. That's the goal of today's lesson, to make these natural exchanges feel automatic for you too. Let me give you a practice exercise that you can do right now, either out loud or in writing. Imagine you're in an American office setting and it's the morning. A coworker walks by and says, "Hey, how's it going?" How would you respond naturally and authentically? Your response might be something like, "Pretty good, just got my coffee." "How about you?" Then the coworker might say, "I'm doing well, thanks. Got a busy day ahead of me. Lots of meetings back to back." This is exactly how real office conversations start in America. Try saying this dialogue out loud right now. Better yet, switch roles and practice both sides. The more you practice these exchanges out loud, the more natural they'll become when you actually need to use them in real situations. Your brain gets used to the rhythm, the pacing, the intonation, and all of those elements that make your English sound more native and fluent. Don't just read these phrases silently. Say them out loud. Feel them in your mouth. Get your tongue and lips used to how these words feel and sound. This is crucial for real fluency. Now let's talk about something that comes up all the time in daily conversations with Americans. People are constantly talking about how busy they are, how stressed they feel, how tired they are, and generally describing their emotional and physical state. Native speakers use very specific and colorful phrases to express these feelings instead of just saying, "I am busy" or "I am tired." This is where your English gets personality and authenticity. For example, one of the most commonly used phrases to describe being extremely busy is "I'm swamped." Now, if you break this down literally, swamped means covered with water, overwhelmed by water. But in casual American English, saying "I'm swamped" means you have an overwhelming amount of work or responsibilities right now. You're drowning in tasks. You have too much on your plate. Everything is piling up. When someone says, "I'm swamped today," they're not exaggerating for fun. They're telling you that they're genuinely very, very busy and probably stressed about everything they need to accomplish. Another phrase that means something very similar is "I've got a lot on my plate." This is another incredibly common expression. Your plate is metaphorically full of responsibilities. You have a lot of things you need to handle, a lot of things demanding your attention, a lot of commitments that you need to juggle. Americans use both of these phrases constantly in work settings, school settings, and in casual conversation with friends. When someone says they've got a lot on their plate, it's a relatable, sympathetic kind of statement that usually gets understanding and support from the listener. Let me give you another example that brings these phrases to life. Imagine you're having lunch with a colleague, and they look tired and stressed. You ask them how they're doing. They respond, "Honestly, I'm swamped. I've got back-to-back meetings all day. 3 different projects that all have deadlines this week, and my inbox is just exploding with emails I haven't even read yet. I've definitely got a lot on my plate right now." When you hear someone say they're swamped or they've got a lot on their plate, this is your cue to be sympathetic and understanding. Maybe you offer to help, or you acknowledge their stress and suggest they take a break. This kind of exchange is what real, authentic conversation looks like in American English. These aren't phrases you'll find in every textbook, but they're phrases you absolutely will hear from every native speaker you encounter. Here's another phrase that's frequently used to describe being tired. Americans will say, "I'm beat." This is a casual, informal way to say you're really exhausted, you're worn out, you're completely tired. It's short, it's expressive, and it's used all the time. If someone asks you at the end of a long day, "How are you feeling?" you might respond, "Man, I'm beat. That was such an exhausting day." Or, after a workout, your gym buddy might say, "That was intense. I'm beat." These are all natural, authentic uses of this phrase that you'll encounter regularly. All right, let's practice this together. I want you to imagine a real-life scenario. It's Friday evening, and you're meeting a friend for dinner after a crazy week of work. Your friend asks you, "Hey, how was your week?" "Oh my gosh, I'm swamped. I've got so much going on at work right now. I've got a lot on my plate, and honestly, I'm beat. I am so ready for this weekend." Your friend says, "I hear you. I've been having the same kind of week, but at least we can relax now and enjoy dinner together." See how naturally these phrases fit into actual conversation? Try creating your own version of this scenario. Maybe it's about school instead of work. Maybe it's about multiple projects instead of a job. The structure is the same, but the context is different. The key here is to understand that these phrases aren't just vocabulary words to memorize. They're building blocks of authentic conversation. When you use them naturally, you immediately sound more like a native speaker. People around you will respond to you as if you're fluent because you're speaking like someone who actually understands the culture and the language at a deeper level than just grammar and words. One of the most common reasons you'll use English in everyday life is to make plans with people you care about. Whether it's friends, family, or colleagues, you're constantly suggesting activities, asking people if they want to do things together, figuring out when and where to meet. Americans have their own specific way of doing this, and they use certain phrases over and over again to make these plans sound casual, friendly, and low pressure. For instance, one of the most commonly used phrases when suggesting getting food together is, "Wanna grab lunch?" Now, notice the contraction here. Americans will say wanna rather than do you wanna. This kind of contraction is extremely common in spoken American English. It sounds more natural, more relaxed, and more authentically American. Saying, "Do you want to get lunch?" sounds slightly more formal and less like how native speakers actually talk in casual settings. Another phrase you'll hear constantly is, "I'm down." This simply means you agree to do something, or you're interested in participating. For example, if your friend says, "Hey, want to catch a movie this weekend?" you could respond, "Yeah, I'm down for that. What are you thinking of watching?" Or if someone suggests, "Let's go hiking tomorrow morning," you might say, "I'm totally down. What time are you thinking?" This phrase is short, it's enthusiastic, and it shows that you're interested and willing to participate in whatever activity is being suggested. Here's something really important to understand about American conversation culture. When you say you're down for something, you're not just saying yes. You're showing enthusiasm and genuine interest. You're communicating that you actually want to do the thing, not that you're just okay with it or tolerating it. This subtle difference in how you express agreement makes a huge difference in how people perceive you and your interest in spending time with them. Let me give you another related phrase. Another way Americans say they want to do something is, "I'm in." This is similar to "I'm down," but it's used slightly differently. If someone says, "We're starting a book club at work. Do you want to join?" you could respond, "That sounds cool. I'm in." Or if your roommate says, "We're organizing a game night next Friday," you could say, "I'm definitely in. Count me in." These phrases all express the same general idea, but they have slightly different uses and contexts. "Hey, wanna grab lunch tomorrow?" "Yeah, I'm down. What did you have in mind?" Friend 1 says, I was thinking about trying that new taco place downtown. Friend 2 replies, for sure, that sounds amazing. What time works for you? Friend 1 says, how about around noon? Friend 2 responds, perfect, I'm in. Let's do it. I'll see you then. Notice all the phrases in this dialogue. Wanna grab lunch? I'm down. For sure, I'm in. These are all phrases that native speakers use automatically without even thinking about them. When you can recognize these phrases, understand them, and use them in your own conversations, you're at a completely different level of English fluency. You're not just speaking correctly grammatically, you're speaking authentically and naturally, the way real people actually talk. Now I want to talk about some of the shortest but most powerful phrases in American English. These are the phrases that show up constantly in conversations, sometimes just 1 or 2 words, but they carry a lot of meaning and show native-like understanding of how communication works. These phrases are the glue that holds conversations together and makes them flow smoothly and naturally. One of the most common is no worries. This phrase is used to tell someone not to stress about something. Maybe they apologize for being late, or they spilled something, or they forgot something. You can say, no worries, it happens to everyone. Don't stress about it. It's a reassuring, calm, and understanding response that makes the other person feel better. It shows empathy and kindness. Another similar phrase is, no big deal, which means the situation or mistake isn't important or serious. Both of these phrases are essential for making people feel comfortable around you and creating positive interactions. Let me give you a realistic example. You're at work and your colleague accidentally sends an email to the wrong person. They feel embarrassed and apologize to you. You could respond, no worries, seriously. These things happen all the time, no big deal. This simple response makes your colleague feel so much better. You've normalized their mistake, shown understanding, and made them feel comfortable. This is how humans connect and build positive working relationships. Here's another incredibly common phrase, sure thing. This is a casual way to agree with someone or confirm that you'll do something. If someone says, can you pass me that pen? You could respond, sure thing. If someone asks, will you remember to text me later? Here's another incredibly common phrase, sure thing. This is a casual way to agree with someone or confirm that you'll do something. If someone says, can you pass me that pen? You could respond, sure thing. If someone asks, will you remember to text me later? Let me introduce you to a phrase you'll hear all the time, I'm good. This can mean several different things depending on context. Sometimes it means you're okay or fine. Someone might ask, how are you doing? And you respond, I'm good, thanks for asking. Other times it means you don't need anything. Someone might say, do you want more coffee? And you respond, I'm good, thanks. This phrase is so flexible and so commonly used that you absolutely need to understand all its different applications and meanings. Picture this scene in detail. You're visiting a friend's house. When you arrive, they say, hey, come in. Can I get you something to drink? You respond, I'm good, thanks though. Later, your friend accidentally knocks over a cup of water near you and apologizes. You say, no worries, no big deal. Seriously, don't even stress about it. Your friend says, thanks for being so cool about it. By the way, some friends are coming over tonight. You want to stick around and hang out? You respond, sure thing, I'm in. Sounds fun. See how naturally all these phrases come together in a real social situation? Try replaying this scene in your head or acting it out with a friend. The amazing thing about these phrases is that once you start using them, you immediately sound more like a native speaker to people around you. Your English becomes less robotic and more human. You're no longer just speaking words. You're communicating with personality, emotion, and authenticity. That's the real goal of learning these phrases. In every conversation, you need to show that you're listening, that you understand what the other person is saying, and that you care about what they're sharing with you. Americans have specific phrases they use to do this. These phrases are crucial for building connections and showing genuine interest in other people. Without these phrases, conversations can feel one-sided or like someone is just waiting for their turn to talk instead of actually engaging with the other person. One of my favorite phrases is, "I hear you." Now, this doesn't literally mean you're hearing the sound of their voice. It means you understand what they're saying and you empathize with their situation or feelings. For example, if someone says, "Work has been really stressful lately," you can respond, "Yeah, I hear you. I've been dealing with stress at work too." Or if someone shares, "I'm really worried about my exam coming up," you could say, "I hear you. That's a lot of pressure, but you're going to do great." This phrase shows emotional intelligence and connection. Another phrase that's similar and equally important is, "I feel you." This also expresses empathy and understanding. It means you can relate to what the person is experiencing. If someone says, "I'm so exhausted. This week has been crazy," you could respond, "I feel you. I've been running around nonstop too. It's been wild." Here's another important phrase that shows understanding. "That makes sense." People use this when they comprehend something or when an explanation seems reasonable and logical. For instance, if someone says, "I couldn't come to the party because I had a family emergency," you respond, "Oh, that makes sense. I hope everything's okay." No worries. We'll see you next time. This phrase validates the other person's explanation and shows that you understand and accept it. Let me introduce you to a phrase that comes up in situations where you need to show you're listening and engaged. You know what I mean? This phrase checks in with the listener to confirm they understand or agree with what you're saying. For example, you might say, "The weather has been absolutely crazy lately, and I just want to stay inside and relax." You know what I mean? It's an interactive way of communicating that keeps the conversation flowing and makes sure you're on the same page. Let me create a realistic dialogue that shows how these empathy and understanding phrases work in real conversation. Friend 1 says, "I've got 3 exams coming up next week, and I'm totally stressed out." Friend 2 responds, "Oh man, I hear you. That sounds overwhelming, but you've always done well on exams, so you've got this." Friend 1 says, "I hope so. I've been studying nonstop, and I'm just beat. I need a break." Friend 2 says, "I feel ya. Take some time this weekend to relax. You know what I mean? Just disconnect and recharge." Friend 1 says, "Yeah, that makes sense. I think you're right. I need to give myself a break." See how naturally these phrases flow together? They create a supportive, understanding conversation that makes both people feel validated and heard. Not every question in life has a simple yes or no answer. Sometimes you're unsure. Sometimes things depend on circumstances. Sometimes you need flexibility. Americans have specific phrases they use to express this kind of uncertainty and flexibility. These phrases are super important because life is often complicated and nuanced, and you need to be able to express that complexity in your conversations. These phrases are super important because life is often complicated and nuanced, and you need to be able to express that complexity in your conversations. Or if someone asks, "Do you want to go out tonight?" you could say, "It depends what you're thinking of doing. If it's something fun, I'm in. If I'm going to be exhausted, maybe not." This phrase lets you give a more nuanced and honest answer instead of oversimplifying complex situations. Here's another phrase that's used when you're not completely sure about something. "I'm not sure." This is a simple but important phrase that shows honesty and humility. If someone asks, "Do you know what time the meeting starts?" and you don't know, you can say, "I'm not sure. I think it might be at 3, but let me check to make sure. This is much better than guessing or giving false information. Native speakers use this phrase all the time because it's honest and shows respect for accuracy. When someone gives you a choice and you genuinely don't care either way, you can say, "It's up to you." This phrase means you're happy to let the other person decide. For example, if someone asks, "Should we get burgers or pizza?" and you're fine with either option, you could respond, "It's up to you. I'm good with anything." This shows flexibility and consideration for the other person's preferences. It's a way of being agreeable without being indecisive. Here's a phrase that expresses a softer version of disagreement. Not really. This is a gentler way to say no. If someone asks, "Do you like spicy food?" and you don't, you could say, "Not really. I prefer milder flavors." It sounds less harsh and more thoughtful than just saying no. Or if someone asks, "Did you like that movie?" and you didn't, you could respond, "Not really. It was a bit slow for me." This phrase allows you to disagree respectfully without being blunt or hurtful. Imagine this scenario. You're hanging out with friends and someone asks, "Do you want to go to that new restaurant downtown for dinner?" You think about it and respond, "It depends. What kind of food do they serve? I'm not sure if I'm in the mood for something heavy or something light." Your friend says, "They have a lot of options, really great Italian food mostly." You respond, "Not really feeling Italian right now, to be honest." "It's up to you guys, though. I'm flexible. I'm happy going wherever." Your friend says, "Okay, how about the Thai place instead?" You respond, "Yeah, I'm down for that." That sounds perfect. See how you expressed uncertainty, flexibility, and preferences while still being a good friend and team player. That's the kind of conversation that builds strong relationships. Sometimes in life, things don't go the way you planned. Things don't work out. Circumstances change. People need to express acceptance of situations they can't control. Americans have some really great phrases for this that show maturity, wisdom, and a healthy perspective. These phrases help you stay calm and philosophical when life throws curveballs at you. One of my favorite phrases that expresses this kind of acceptance is, "It is what it is." This phrase is used when something isn't ideal, but there's nothing you can do about it, so you accept it and move on. For example, if you miss a flight and have to reschedule your entire trip, you might say, "Well, it is what it is. I'll just book a flight for tomorrow." Or if your event gets rained out, you could say, "It is what it is. We can always reschedule." This phrase shows emotional maturity and the ability to accept what you can't control. It's a very American way of dealing with disappointment. Here's another phrase that's used when you're okay with a situation, even if it's not perfect. Can't complain. When someone asks, "How are things going?" and you've had an okay week without anything amazing happening, you might respond, "Can't complain, you know? Things are pretty good." Or if someone asks, "How's life treating you?" you might say, "Same old, can't complain, just taking things one day at a time." This phrase suggests contentment and gratitude even when things aren't exceptional. One more phrase I want to introduce that helps you accept reality and move forward is, "You never know." This is used to express that anything can happen, which can be hopeful or cautious depending on context. If someone says, "I probably won't get that job," you could respond, "You never know. You might be surprised. You've got a really strong application." Or if someone says, "It looks like it's going to rain today," you could say, "You never know. The weather changes really quickly sometimes." This phrase is both hopeful and realistic. Let me give you a realistic example. Imagine two friends talking after a tough week. Friend one says, "This week was a complete disaster. My project got delayed, I got sick, and my plans got canceled." Friend two responds, "That's rough. I hear you. But you know what? It is what it is." Things happen. You'll get through it. Friend 1 says, I guess you're right. I can't change what already happened, but I'm exhausted. Friend 2 says, yeah, I get it. But you never know what next week brings. Maybe things will turn around. Friend 1 says, yeah, I hope so. I just need to take it easy and rest this weekend. Friend 2 says, exactly. Can't complain though, right? At least you have the weekend coming up. One of the most fun and expressive parts of English is when you get to show surprise or shock at something someone tells you. Americans have a bunch of great phrases and expressions they use when they're surprised, amazed, or don't believe something. These expressions add so much energy and personality to conversations, and they show that you're really engaged and interested in what someone is saying. The most common phrase for expressing surprise is no way. If someone tells you something surprising or unexpected, you can respond with, no way, are you serious? The tone and delivery matter a lot here. You can say it with high energy and excitement if it's good news. For example, if someone says, I won the lottery, you'd respond with an excited, no way, that's incredible. Or you can say it with a lower, more doubtful tone if you don't believe what someone is telling you. If someone says something ridiculous, you might say with skepticism, no way, I don't believe that at all. The phrase is flexible depending on your tone. Another expression that shows surprise and is incredibly common, especially when someone tells you something funny or clever, is, that's a good one. If someone makes a joke or tells you something witty, you laugh and say, that's a good one. I needed that laugh. Or if someone comes up with a clever idea, you might say, that's a good one. I really like that solution. This expression shows appreciation and genuine amusement or admiration. Here's another phrase that's used when something happens suddenly and unexpectedly, out of the blue. For example, if you're telling someone how you reconnected with an old friend, you might say, she contacted me out of the blue after 3 years of not talking. Here's another phrase that's used when something happens suddenly and unexpectedly, out of the blue. For example, if you're telling someone how you reconnected with an old friend, you might say, she contacted me out of the blue after 3 years of not talking. No way! That's so awesome! Congratulations! I didn't even think I was going to get an interview. You say, that's awesome. How did you find out about the job? Friend 1 responds, out of the blue, honestly. A recruiter reached out to me on LinkedIn. I wasn't even looking for a job. You respond, that's a good one. You didn't even have to stress about the job search. This kind of exchange shows genuine excitement and interest in your friend's good news. Sometimes in life, you need to say no. You need to decline an invitation, refuse an offer, or turn down a suggestion. This is such an important skill in any language because you want to be honest and set boundaries while still being kind and respectful. Americans have developed some really nice ways to say no without being harsh or hurtful. These phrases are essential for asserting yourself while maintaining good relationships. One of the most common and polite ways to decline something is, I'll pass. This phrase is casual and friendly. If someone offers you something like food or an invitation, you can say, thanks, but I'll pass. For example, someone might say, do you want to go out for drinks after work? And you respond, I appreciate the invite, but I'll pass. I've got an early morning tomorrow. Or someone offers you another slice of cake and you say, I'm good, but thanks, I'll pass. This phrase softens the refusal and shows gratitude for the offer. Another phrase that's used when you're declining to participate is, I'll take a rain check. This means you're politely saying no right now, but you're interested in doing the activity at another time. For example, if someone says, want to go to the concert this weekend? And you're busy, you could respond, I'd love to, but I've got plans. Can I take a rain check though? This phrase shows that you genuinely want to do the activity, just not right now. It leaves the door open for a future opportunity. Here's a phrase I want to teach you that's essential for setting boundaries respectfully. I appreciate it, but I can't right now. This is a kind way to decline while acknowledging the other person's effort. For example, if someone asks for a favor and you're too busy, you might say, I really appreciate you asking, but I can't help right now. I've got too much on my plate. Or if someone invites you to an event, you could say, thank you so much for the invitation, but I can't make it. I've got a prior commitment. These phrases show respect and appreciation while maintaining your boundaries. Let me show you what this looks like in real conversation. A friend says, we're throwing a party next Saturday. Do you want to come? You respond, thanks so much for the invite. I'd love to, but I've actually got something going on that night. Can I take a rain check though? I'd definitely like to hang out soon. Of course. Next time then. Also, I'm making wings. Do you want me to save you some? I appreciate it, but I'm actually trying to cut back on fried foods right now. But thanks for thinking of me. Your friend says, no problem, I hear you. Well, hope you have fun with whatever you're doing. See how you've declined multiple invitations while still being warm, kind, and leaving the door open for future interactions? That's the art of American politeness. Now let's talk about the opposite end of the spectrum. Sometimes you want to show really strong agreement, enthusiasm, and excitement about something. You want to show that you're 100% on board with an idea, a plan, or what someone is saying. Americans have some really great phrases for expressing this kind of strong, enthusiastic agreement that goes beyond just saying yes. One of the most common and expressive phrases is for sure. This is a positive response that means you absolutely agree, or you're definitely going to do something. Someone might say, this is the best pizza I've ever had, and you respond, for sure. This place is incredible. Or if someone asks, are you coming to the game tomorrow? You could answer, for sure. I've been looking forward to it all week. This phrase is upbeat and shows genuine agreement or commitment. Here's another phrase that shows you absolutely want to participate in something. I'm down. We talked about this earlier in the context of making plans, but it's worth revisiting because it's so incredibly common and so important. I'm down shows enthusiasm and genuine interest. If someone says, let's go get some coffee, you respond, I'm totally down for that. Let's go right now. Or if someone suggests starting a new fitness routine together, you could say, yeah, I'm down. Let's do it together and keep each other motivated. One more phrase I want to highlight for expressing strong agreement is sounds good. This is a friendly way to confirm that you think something is a great idea. If someone says, sounds good, I'll see you then. Or if someone suggests, how about we split the bill? You could say, sounds good to me. That works. This phrase is positive and affirming. Here's another phrase that shows strong affirmation. You bet. This means definitely or of course, and it shows enthusiastic agreement or a willingness to help. If someone says, thanks for helping me move, you respond, you bet. That's what friends are for. Or if someone asks, will you remember to text me when you get home? You could answer, you bet. I'll let you know as soon as I arrive. This phrase shows reliability and enthusiasm. Let me paint you a picture of how these enthusiastic phrases work in real conversation. Your friend says, I just got tickets to that concert you wanted to see. Wanna go? You respond, are you serious? For sure. I'm so excited. That's going to be amazing. Yeah, right? The tickets are for next month. Does that work for you? You say, sounds good. I'm already marking my calendar. You bet I'm gonna be there. Your friend laughs and says, I love your enthusiasm. We're going to have such a good time. You respond, I'm down for sure. Let's make a whole night of it. See how the enthusiasm builds naturally as you express strong agreement repeatedly? That's how real conversations between excited friends sound. A huge portion of everyday conversations in America involves talking about time. People are constantly talking about being late, running on schedule, needing more time, and managing their busy schedules. Americans have specific phrases they use when discussing time-related topics, and these phrases are so incredibly common that you'll hear them multiple times every single day. One of the most common phrases is, hang on a sec, or hang on a second. This simply means wait a moment because you need a brief pause. If you're on a phone call and something interrupts you, you might say, hang on a sec. Someone's at the door. Let me call you back. Or if someone asks you a question while you're busy, you could say, hang on a second, let me finish this, and then I can help you. This phrase is polite and lets people know you haven't forgotten about them. You just need a moment. Here's another phrase that's very similar. Give me a minute. This means you need a little time to do something before you can give your full attention. For example, if you're cooking and someone asks you something, you might say, give me a minute. I need to stir this pot. Or if someone wants to talk but you're in the middle of something, you could respond, give me just a minute. Let me wrap this up and then I'm all yours. When you're running late and need to communicate that to someone, you might say, running a little behind. This is a very common text or phone message. For example, you're supposed to meet a friend at 6 and you're not going to make it on time, so you text, hey, running a little behind. Be there in about 15 minutes. Or if you're on a call and you say, I'm running a little behind, I'll be there soon. This phrase gives people a heads up that you're not going to arrive at the planned time. Here's a phrase that's used when you're wrapping up work or activities for the day. Let's call it a day. This means it's time to stop working or doing something and move on to rest or something else. If you and your colleague have been working on a project for hours, you might say, okay, we've done some great work today. Let's call it a day. Or you're cleaning your house with a friend and you say, this place looks amazing. Let's call it a day and relax on the couch. This phrase is casual and friendly. Imagine you're at work and you get a call from a friend who wants to meet up. Your friend says, hey, want to grab lunch today? You respond, yeah, I'm down, but give me a minute to finish this email. Your friend says, no problem, I'll wait. A few minutes later, you're on your way. You text, running a little behind. Traffic is crazy. Be there in about 10 minutes. Your friend responds, no worries, no rush. I'll just grab a table. You finally arrive, and after eating for a while, you say, this was so nice, but I should probably get back to work. Let's call it a day and head out. Your friend says, yeah, for sure, but let's do this again soon. You respond, absolutely, sounds good. In any community and in any set of relationships, people are constantly helping each other, asking for favors, and taking care of responsibilities. Americans have a bunch of phrases they use when they're offering help, making requests, taking responsibility for things, or asking others to take care of things. These phrases show kindness, responsibility, and willingness to contribute to your community and your relationships. One of the most common phrases used when you're taking responsibility for something is, I'm on it. This means you're already handling something or you're about to start doing it. If someone says, can someone send the email to the client? You could respond, I'm on it. I'll send it right now. Or in a group chat, someone might say, we need to book the venue for next month. And you respond, I'm on it. I'll make the calls this week. This phrase shows confidence, reliability, and a willingness to take action. Another helpful phrase is, I got you. This means you're going to help someone or you can be relied on. For example, if someone says, can you pick me up from the airport? You respond, I got you. What time are you landing? Or if someone asks, can you watch my apartment while I'm on vacation? You could say, yeah, I got you. Don't worry about it. This phrase shows loyalty and trustworthiness. When you want to offer help but you need more information or you're waiting for someone to ask, you might say, let me know if you need anything. This is a generous offer that keeps the door open for assistance. For example, a friend is going through a tough time, and you say, I'm here for you. Let me know if you need anything. I can help with groceries, cooking, just anything really. Or a coworker is stressed about a project, and you say, let me know if I can help. I'm happy to take some of the work off your plate. Here's a phrase that's used when you want to politely request help without being too direct. Would you mind? This is a very respectful way to ask someone to do something. For example, you could say, would you mind closing the window? It's getting cold in here. Or, would you mind sending me that document when you get a chance? This phrase shows consideration and politeness. Picture this scenario. Your friend texts you and says, hey, I'm having a really rough day. My car broke down and I don't know what to do. You immediately respond, I got you. Don't stress. I can come pick you up right now. What's your location? Your friend says, are you sure? I don't want to be a burden. You respond, I'm on it. I'm heading your way now. Let me know if the tow truck arrives before I get there. Your friend says, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. You respond, that's what friends are for. Let me know if you need anything else. Later, you ask, would you mind if I pick you up after your mechanic appointment tomorrow? Your friend says, would you mind that? That would be amazing. Thank you so much. You respond, of course. Let me know what time and I'll be there. This exchange shows how these helping and assistance phrases create strong bonds between people. American culture is very humorous, and friends are constantly joking with each other, teasing each other in fun ways, and using humor to build bonds. However, humor can be tricky in different languages and cultures, so Americans have specific phrases they use to signal that they're joking and not being serious. These phrases are important because they prevent misunderstandings and make sure everyone knows you're having fun. One of the most common phrases used after making a joke or teasing someone is, I'm just messing with you. This signals that you were joking or not being serious. For example, you might say to a friend, your new haircut looks terrible. Your friend might look shocked, and you quickly add, I'm just messing with you. You look great. Seriously, I love it. This phrase saves the situation and makes it clear you were joking. Another similar phrase is just kidding or just joking. These all serve the same purpose of signaling that you weren't being serious. Here's the thing about using these joking phrases. You need to use them in situations where it's appropriate and with people who appreciate humor. You also need to use the right tone of voice. If you say something mean and immediately add, I'm just messing with you, but your tone sounds genuinely mean, people might not believe that you were joking. But if you smile, laugh, and say it warmly, it's clear you're being playful and funny. When someone tells you a funny joke or says something witty and clever, you respond with a phrase like, that's a good one, or you got me. These phrases show appreciation for the humor and acknowledge that the person made you laugh. For example, if a friend makes a clever pun, you could say, that's a good one. I walked right into that. Or if someone tricks you with a joke, you could laugh and say, you got me. That was good. These responses encourage people to keep being funny and creative. Let me give you a fun example. You're at lunch with friends, and one friend says, I'm thinking about going to the gym every single day starting tomorrow. You respond, really? I'll believe it when I see it. Your friend looks hurt, and you quickly add, I'm just messing with you. But seriously, if you want a gym buddy, I'm in. Everyone laughs. Then another friend says, Why did the coffee file a police report? Because it got mugged. Everyone groans, and you say, "That's a good one. I hate how much I love that joke." Your friend says, "You got me. I knew you'd hate it, but I had to tell it anyway." See how the humor flows naturally with these phrases? The joking brings the group closer together. In modern life, especially with texting and constant communication, people are always updating each other about plans, asking for information, and staying connected. Americans have specific phrases they use to follow up with people, ask for updates, and keep each other informed. These phrases help maintain relationships and make sure everyone is on the same page. One of the most common phrases is, "Let me know." This is used to ask someone to tell you something later. You might say, "Let me know if you're coming to the party," or "Let me know when you're free to meet up." This phrase is flexible and can be followed by different conditions. Another version is "I'll let you know," which means you'll provide someone with information at a later time. For example, if someone asks, "Are you still on for dinner tonight?" you could respond, "I'll let you know after my meeting." Another phrase that's used in this context is, "I'll get back to you." This is used when someone asks you something and you need time to find the answer or make a decision. For example, if your boss asks, "Can you work on this project this week?" you might respond, "I need to check my schedule. Let me get back to you tomorrow with a definite answer." This phrase shows that you're taking the question seriously and will provide a proper response soon. Here's another common phrase used to ask for ongoing information or updates. "Keep me posted." This means you want someone to update you as things develop or change. For example, if a friend is waiting to hear back from a job interview, you might say, "Good luck. Keep me posted on how it goes." Or if someone is planning a party, you could say, "I want to help. Keep me posted on what you need." This phrase shows interest and engagement. Another way to ask for an update or request contact is, "Hit me up." This means contact me or call me or text me. It's very casual and friendly. For example, if you're leaving a situation, you might say to a friend, "All right, I've got to head out. Hit me up if you need anything." Or if someone says they'll arrange something, you could respond, "Sounds good. Hit me up with the details when you know them." This phrase is very commonly used among friends and colleagues. "Keep me posted. I want to know as soon as you hear back." "For sure. I'll get back to you once I know anything." A few days later, your friend texts, "They called. I got the job." You respond, "That's amazing. Congratulations. We need to celebrate. Let me know when you're free." Your friend says, "Thanks. I'm free this weekend. Hit me up and we'll figure out the details." You respond, "Sounds good. I'll let you know the plan by Friday." This kind of natural back and forth shows how these follow-up and update phrases keep relationships strong. In conversations, you often need to shift topics smoothly or add something new that you just remembered. Americans have a specific phrase they use for this that makes the transition feel natural instead of abrupt. This phrase is so incredibly common that you'll hear it multiple times in almost every conversation. By the way, you use this to introduce something new to the conversation or to shift to a different topic in a smooth way. For example, if you're talking about your weekend and then you remember something you need to tell your friend, you might say, "By the way, did you see that new movie that came out?" Or you're discussing work and then you add, "By the way, I saw your post on social media. Nice photos." This phrase acts as a bridge that makes the topic change feel natural instead of random. The beauty of "by the way" is that it can introduce information that's related to what you're talking about or completely unrelated. It just signals that you're adding something extra to the conversation. It keeps conversations flowing and natural. Without phrases like this, conversations would feel choppy and awkward when you want to add something new. Now, let me create a long, realistic dialogue that brings together many of the phrases we've covered throughout this entire episode. This will show you how all these phrases work together in natural conversation. Listen carefully and see how many phrases you can identify. Hey, oh my gosh, long time no see. How have you been? I know, right? It's been forever. I've been good, just really busy with work and everything. I'm swamped, honestly. Yeah, I hear you. Work has been crazy for me too. I've got a lot on my plate right now. Friend B says, that makes sense. Everyone seems stressed these days. But anyway, I'm still down to hang out like we used to. Want to grab lunch sometime soon? Friend A responds, for sure, I'm totally in. That sounds amazing. Let me check my schedule and I'll get back to you with some dates. Friend B says, sounds good. By the way, I saw on social media that you got a promotion or something? Friend A laughs and says, oh yeah, out of the blue they offered me the position. I still can't believe it actually happened. You know what I mean? Friend B says, no way! That's incredible! You totally deserve it. Congratulations! Friend A responds, thanks so much. I appreciate that. It's been a lot of work, but I'm excited about it. Friend B says, that's awesome. We definitely need to celebrate. I'm on it. I'll figure out a nice place for us to go. Friend A says, you bet. I'm down for whatever. Just let me know the plan. They exchange numbers, and friend B says, all right, I'm going to head out now. Hit me up later, and we'll work out the details. Friend A responds, will do. Take it easy, and I'll talk to you soon. This was so nice catching up. Friend B says, I know, right? Can't wait to see you again. Take care. This dialogue demonstrates how all these phrases naturally fit into a real, authentic conversation between two people. See how smooth and natural it flows? See how the dialogue would be weird and robotic without these phrases? These phrases are the life and soul of actual English conversation. Learning and practicing them is what transforms you from someone who speaks grammatically correct English to someone who speaks fluently and naturally like a native speaker. Wow, we've covered so much ground in this episode. We've gone through dozens of essential American English phrases that are used constantly in daily conversation. We've looked at phrases for greeting people, expressing how busy you are, making plans, showing understanding and empathy, expressing uncertainty and flexibility, accepting situations, showing surprise, politely declining, expressing strong agreement, discussing time, offering help, joking and teasing, following up, and smoothly changing topics in conversation. But here's the most important thing I want to leave you with. Learning these phrases is just the beginning. The real magic happens when you actually start using them in real conversations. I want you to go out there and practice. When you're talking to English speakers, consciously try to use these phrases. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't worry about sounding perfect. The goal is to sound authentic and natural, not to sound robotic and perfect. Here's what I recommend you do. First, go back through this episode and pick out 3 to 5 phrases that you think you'll use most often in your life. Focus on those first. Practice them out loud. Say them in the shower, in the car, when you're alone. Get them into your muscle memory and your brain so that when you're in a real conversation, they come out naturally without you having to think about them. Second, try to use at least one new phrase every single day. When you're speaking English, whether it's with friends, family, colleagues, or language exchange partners, consciously incorporate one of these phrases into your conversation. You'll be surprised how quickly they become automatic and part of your natural speech patterns. Third, if you can, try to watch American movies, TV shows, or YouTube videos and listen for these phrases. You'll notice how often they come up. You'll start to develop an ear for how native speakers actually talk. This exposure, combined with your conscious practice, will accelerate your fluency dramatically. I also want to remind you that fluency doesn't come from memorizing textbook rules. Fluency comes from immersion, practice, and actually living the language. These phrases are the building blocks of that living language. They're what make you sound like you belong in an English-speaking conversation. Don't forget to check out our podcast playlist, where we have organized all our episodes by topic, and binge listen to your heart's content and really transform your English speaking ability. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. We have new content dropping regularly, and each episode is designed to help you become more fluent, more confident, and more authentic in your English speaking. Also, share this episode with anyone you know who's learning English. Word of mouth is the best advertising, and your recommendation means so much to us. Help us build this community of English learners who want to speak authentically and fluently, not just correctly. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Thank you for being part of this podcast community. Thank you for your commitment to improving your English speaking skills. I know it's not always easy, but I promise you that the effort you put in now will pay off so much in your future conversations and your confidence as an English speaker. Keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep speaking. Don't wait to be perfect. Go out there and use these phrases. Make mistakes, learn from them, have fun with the language. That's how real fluency happens. That's how you go from being someone who studied English to being someone who actually speaks English authentically and naturally. This is Lilly signing off. I'm so grateful for your time and attention today. I hope this episode was helpful, informative, and inspiring. Remember to check out our podcast playlist for more amazing English lessons. Subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes. Share this with your friends. And most importantly, keep speaking English every single day. Your fluency journey is in progress, and every conversation brings you closer to your goal. I'll see you in the next episode. Happy learning, everyone!